I read a book a few years ago by a man named Jonathan Franzen called The Corrections. And it's the kind of corrections where you correct something. It's not the kind of corrections where people go to jail and correctional institutions. And it develops the idea in that book that we have to watch out as we think how we want to form our lives to be not to repeat our father's errors. And in the book, the protagonist's father was a angry, uptight, closed person who had no concept of how he felt and how he could talk with his spouse and others about it to release some of the anger and not just take it out on everybody, including himself. So the idea of the corrections was that as we try to correct the errors of our father, it's like you're pulling a car over to keep it from going into the ditch, and then you pull it over, and all of a sudden you've gone too far, and you bump up against the bumper guard, and boom, you go over to land in the ditch on the other side. So that was the concept that's developed in this book, and I think a lot about that, about me. And a big example of that just came to fore this past week when somebody in my water exercises did something that upset me very much. I've been doing these water exercises for a few years now, religiously. Speaking of religion, I'm religious about going there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I love it. It's done away with my back pain from my sciatica and so on. Also, I've formed friends there, and we get in the water together, about a dozen of us smiling at each other and glad to see each other for each class, and bouncing around, smiling at each other, clapping hands at certain points during the exercises, and so on. Well, but I got very upset. And I was upset about one person there in the class that had said something to me about the slaughter, the genocide in Gaza and on the West Bank. And I let that really grab a hold of me, and I blew up at my good friend there because she had gone over and been friendly to the person I'm angry with. Well, in processing about that, I remembered how my dad had gotten mad at the local minister when the local minister lied to him in promising that he'd go and visit every family in the congregation during his first year as the minister there, after my dad had helped recruit him and select him and bring him there. Well, my dad got ferociously angry at the guy when he found out that he hadn't done that. And on top of it, he told Dad after a year that he had. And so my dad rebuked him in front of members of the church. And then a few years later, and then he stopped going to church. I'm not going to go to church with that guy there. And he had to run for election at age 65. And over 20 people in the church signed an ad that was published in the local paper saying that he'd been unkind to them, and they didn't think somebody that could be so unkind was good to be the local judge. And he got bounced out of office at 65, having closed his practice 6 years earlier. He had no clients and no pension from the judge job he'd had. And there he was, crushed. He didn't give up and die. He lived another 10 years and saved up a little bit of money for Mom in her retirement. But in thinking about that, and thinking about my anger and indignation about this person in water exercises who had lied to me, I thought, ooh, I hear Father's memory barking at me. And I'm thinking, the next thing that's going to happen, my friends in the water class are going to find out about this conflict, and it's going to make them uncomfortable. They may kind of feel like they need to choose sides or something. I don't want any of that going on. And I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. as Nina Simone sang, I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. I just hope I won't be misunderstood. I listened to that song over and over, and of course, I'm butchering it, but I love it. I hope I'm a person whose intentions are good. I hope I won't be misunderstood. And as I'm pushing up toward 90, I realize I'm getting more and more focused on not upsetting people, not doing things that are unkind that make people uncomfortable with me. So I figured my way out of this problem and had a very brief conversation with the person I'd blown up at, and we hugged each other, and it's over. And a couple of the people in water said a few minutes after she and I had patched it up, you seemed awfully serious at our last class. What was going on? And I said, oh, never mind. It's all good. I didn't fall into the ditch on the other side of the road.